In most systems, feedback arrives only after outcomes are already fixed. This delay is not accidental. It is produced by how systems process information over time. Feedback does not move at the speed of action. It moves at the speed of aggregation. Early in any process, signals are weak. Actions occur in isolation. Results are partial. Noise dominates patterns. At this stage, systems cannot distinguish between meaningful deviation and normal variation. Because of this, feedback is withheld. The absence of feedback is not negligence. It is a filtering function. Systems delay response until enough data accumulates to justify interpretation. Until repetition occurs, no conclusion can be drawn. A single mistake does not define a trend. A single success does not confirm effectiveness. The system waits. During this waiting period, actions continue without correction. Effort is applied. Decisions compound. Direction solidifies. The system is moving, but feedback has not yet been released. By the time patterns become statistically visible, the system has already committed. This is the core delay. Feedback becomes clear only after behavior has been repeated long enough to produce stable outcomes. At that point, reversal is difficult or impossible. The feedback is accurate, but it is late. This creates a common illusion. It appears that feedback failed to guide behavior. In reality, guidance was never its function. Feedback is descriptive, not preventive. In many systems, feedback exists to explain outcomes, not to alter them. Consider how performance is evaluated. Early performance reviews are vague. Language remains general. Keep going. Doing well. Needs development. These statements reflect uncertainty, not avoidance. The system lacks sufficient information to be precise. Precision appears only after prolonged exposure. After enough time passes, weaknesses become undeniable. Strengths become fixed expectations. At this stage, feedback sharpens. Unfortunately, this sharpening coincides with reduced flexibility. Roles have solidified. Reputations have formed. Expectations are anchored. The system has adapted around observed behavior. Late feedback describes what has already been integrated. This makes feedback feel frustrating. It identifies issues that can no longer be changed easily. The same pattern appears in education. Early assessments are formative. They are light. They emphasize participation. Later assessments determine outcomes. Grades become final. At that point, feedback explains failure rather than preventing it. The system could not provide decisive feedback earlier because the evidence did not exist. Feedback depends on lag. Lag is built into complex systems because outcomes unfold over time. Inputs do not produce immediate results. Effects compound. Interactions interfere. Only after delay does clarity emerge. This delay makes feedback structurally backward-looking. People often expect feedback to function as real-time guidance. This expectation is misplaced. Systems do not operate that way. They observe first. They respond later. By the time response occurs, the opportunity for correction has passed. This is especially true in systems with long feedback loops, careers, relationships, skill development. In these systems, early actions feel reversible. They are not. Small decisions accumulate invisibly. Direction sets quietly. When feedback finally surfaces, it reveals trajectory rather than choice. At that point, effort shifts from steering to coping. Late feedback often triggers regret. The regret is not caused by ignorance. It is caused by delayed visibility. The system did not make consequences visible when influence was still available. This does not mean the system malfunctioned. It means it functioned as designed. Early feedback would have been unreliable. Acting on it could have produced false correction. The system avoids premature judgment by delaying response. Accuracy is prioritized over usefulness. This trade-off is structural. In fast systems, feedback arrives quickly, but is noisy. In slow systems, feedback is accurate, but late. Most meaningful systems fall into the second category. This explains why people often say, "If only I had known earlier." The information did not exist earlier in a usable form. The system could not distinguish signal from noise until repetition stabilized patterns. Once stabilized, change became costly. Feedback then serves a different role. It justifies outcomes. It explains decisions. It supports closure. It does not reopen paths. This is why late feedback feels cruel. It names what cannot be undone. In organizational settings, feedback often arrives during formal reviews or corrective actions. By then, promotion decisions have been made. Trust has shifted. Opportunities have closed. The feedback explains why. It does not influence what. The same occurs in relationships. Dissatisfaction is often communicated only after emotional withdrawal has begun. Early discomfort is unarticulated. Only once distance is established does clarity appear. At that point, repair is difficult. The feedback is accurate. The timing is fatal. People often assume earlier honesty would have changed the outcome. This assumption ignores the system's signal threshold. Early signals were ambiguous, even to the person experiencing them. Clarity emerged through accumulation. Feedback cannot precede understanding. Understanding requires time. Systems do not respond to isolated data points. They respond to patterns. Patterns require duration. This creates an unavoidable gap between action and insight. Because of this gap, feedback always trails relevance. The system is not designed to optimize individual learning. It is designed to maintain stability and coherence. Delayed feedback supports that goal by preventing overreaction. From the system's perspective, late feedback is appropriate. From the participant's perspective, it is useless. This mismatch produces persistent frustration across domains. People try to solve this by requesting more frequent feedback. This increases volume, not accuracy. Early feedback becomes generic or misleading. It does not change structural limits. The constraint is not communication. It is time. Feedback cannot compress the time required for patterns to emerge. This is why early praise often disappears later. The system was cautious early. Once certainty forms, evaluation hardens. What looked like approval was provisional tolerance. Late feedback feels harsher because it is final. The system is no longer observing. It is concluding. This explains why feedback often coincides with consequences. Performance improvement plans, relationship ultimatums, academic failure. These moments combine explanation with enforcement. Feedback arrives packaged with outcome. At that stage, behavior change may still occur. Outcome reversal rarely does. This leads to a common misinterpretation. People believe feedback is meant to help them improve. In many systems, improvement is not the objective at the feedback stage. Documentation is. The system has already adjusted. Feedback records why. This does not mean feedback is malicious. It means it serves the system's needs, not the individual's. In systems where feedback arrives early enough to guide behavior, flexibility remains high. Outcomes are not yet locked. Errors are reversible. Learning is possible. In systems with delayed feedback, learning occurs too late to affect the original outcome. It may influence future cycles, but not the current one. This is the structural contrast. When structure changes, effort appears to work. In systems like this, timing determines whether feedback informs action or merely explains results. Within this structure, no amount of late feedback can restore influence once outcomes have stabilized. In other systems, access governs outcomes.